The Model Y was the best-selling vehicle worldwide in 2023, and it will probably be the same again in 2024. The figures are still pending, and Tesla has now given this vehicle a refresh. You can see a little bit of what has already happened, and in this video, we clarify what has been changed, what has been improved, what are the new specs, and above all, what is the price of the new Model Y 2025. We start first with the front of the vehicle. It's easy to see there's a light bar that goes completely from right to left, but this also has the consequence that the headlight has now slipped down here. We have to see how it will be in the future, whether snow will settle here somehow when you are driving on the highway in winter. Otherwise, the Model Y now also has a front camera. Next to the Cybertruck, it's the first Tesla now on the European market that has it. It is mounted here below under the license plate holder, and you can see it quite easily. You can, of course, view the image in the interior on the display. The camera has a built-in washer. You obviously need it at the front, otherwise, a lot of dirt will collect there. It is, of course, heated so that in winter, for example, snow or fog doesn't stick to it. We also have a look at the frunk, which, by the way, is still not powered. So, in the display, press once, and then once with the hand raised. It should not have changed much in terms of size here, but the frunk now has a drain. So, you should fill the frunk with ice at the garden party, for example, to cool the drinks, and you can now fill the water accordingly, letting it drain down here. Of course, there is also the filler neck for the washer fluid, and otherwise, there is nothing more to find here in front. But, as I said, since the frunk is not powered, we have to close it again by hand. Then we will do it next time here on the side. Continuing with the wheels, there are now new black 19-inch standard rims. Or are they hubcaps again that you can probably take off and find a relatively normal rim underneath? Optionally, there are also the new 20-inch Helix rims, which are silver, by the way, and I have to admit I like them a little better because in black that looks really cool in my opinion. Otherwise, the Model Y has, of course, also gotten a new chassis with the same dampers that we already know from the Model 3 refresh. So, in terms of chassis, something has definitely changed here. Otherwise, in the side view, we see that the roofline is unchanged as well as the doors and the door handles, which means the vehicle height is one-to-one identical to the old Model Y, as well as the width. The only thing that has changed is the length, which is 4 centimeters longer now. The new Model Y honestly doesn't make much of a difference. And what I have also improved are all the glass panes, because we now have acoustic glass everywhere, similar to what we already know from the Model 3 refresh. Previously, it was only the driver and passenger windows, and the back was still simple glazing. Now everywhere, which results in around 22% less road noise in the interior, 20% less wind noise, and what has also been improved is the glass roof, because the better direction on top now keeps 26% more solar energy outside. There is also a comment that I often get. Why is the Model Y actually only offered with a glass roof? Some people don't think it's that cool. I like it very much, especially in the Model Y, because you don't have the sill in the middle like in the Model 3, and thus a great view upwards. But now, also in summer, even more solar energy is kept outside. Then we are slowly getting to the back of the vehicle. In my opinion, this is where the most has happened visually. Also here, there is now a light bar that goes completely from right to left, 1.6 meters long. Otherwise, what is also immediately noticeable is the license plate position. Before, I had the license plate here in the tailgate, and it is now completely free. The license plate has slipped down into the diffuser, which, by the way, has also been improved accordingly with a bit more downforce for the vehicle. What's also interesting is that the light bar is now the taillight because with Model 3, we have this as a taillight. It now also lights up on Model Y, but only as a brake light, and the actual taillight is really this indirect light bar. I don't know how well I can show you this, but here the Tesla logo is placed slightly raised, and the material here is, in my opinion, similar to what we already know from the interior of the dashboard at the front of the new Model 3, with a light texture on it. I have to admit, in reality, it really looks much cooler than in all the photos. Otherwise, we take a look directly into the trunk here. We open it up here at the bottom. By the way, the rear view camera is now installed. The taillights now fold up as well as the Model 3, which means we have now installed two small LEDs on the right and left of the trunk, which light up accordingly so that you are still visible for the traffic behind you. There is also a new parcel shelf. I'll have a look. I can just pull it forward here. There was feedback that the old one wasn't so great, so Tesla also redesigned it, and you can now lift it up so easily, and then just fold it back in the trunk. Otherwise, not much has changed. There is now 20 liters less storage space, but to be honest, it doesn't make much of a difference because this trunk is really huge, and of course, we still have this on the left and right side. There are, of course, still large bags or a lower trunk, but what is new is now the folding of the back seat because that works via this lever here. It worked like that before too, but the whole thing is now electric, so I press it once here, then you see the back seat fold down all by itself. The advantage is that I can press on it, and the back seat comes back up all by itself. Yes, I have to admit that was a problem. It's just such a big distance from here at the back to the front to the back seat. You can't get to it. The advantage is also on the right side, but you have to pass on the left here too. If the passenger seat is too far back, it also moves forward so that the back seat can fold down properly, and then press the button again, and the seat will go back up again by itself. That's a really cool feature.
Then we'll take a look at the interior. Today we'll start with the back seat first. You can see it now, ambient lighting equivalent, as we know it from the Model 3 Highland. Otherwise, the sound system here now in the long-range all-wheel drive has 16 speakers, a subwoofer, and many of these speakers have been hidden behind materials so that you can't see them anymore. I have to admit, Tesla has done a really good job because you really can't see much of the sound system in here, but it sounds really good, as we are used to from Tesla. The back seat is of course still heated and ventilated. Unfortunately, not just the front seats, but we'll get to that in a moment. Otherwise, there is now also the 8-inch display for the rear passengers, which of course you can use to control the air conditioning, for example. You can switch it on and off. That was of course annoying before. You could only do that at the front via the display. Now, the passengers in the back can do that themselves, and otherwise, you can also control the seat heating. No, not ventilation, but the seat heating controls once here, of course, with clicks, or you can also adjust the inclination of the back seat here via the display. This also works again with buttons on the back seat directly. I'll show you in a little bit. You can also adjust the passenger seat here in front to steer or move out of the way if you want more legroom, which of course is only possible as long as nobody is sitting on it. We can control the music here once. We can, of course, watch YouTube, Netflix, Disney+. No, that is no longer available. So, you can get it again with a trick and watch Twitch and, of course, play games. You can have up to, two or at least connect several Bluetooth devices, which means headphones for the passengers in the back so that the driver is not disturbed or can simply listen to his own music. Tesla spoke about Bluetooth devices in the briefing, so I assume that several game controllers will also work so that the people in the back can pass the time on the journey a little bit. In my opinion, the back seat has also become bigger, so here is the leg rest. I would say I am not super tall with my 170, but I have to admit, in the old Model Y, the back seat I would say not here but maybe already past here, and my legs didn't have such good support. But here, I have to say I'm very satisfied, and as soon as I don't put my feet up here but move them slightly forward, my thighs are also nice and flat, and so you can really drive quite relaxed here. Otherwise, because I am just here on the side, it is quite hidden. I have to see if there are buttons to change the angle of the back seat if you don't want to do it via the display. And now I've turned the seat over once, which was a bit stupid because I'm sitting straight on it, but it's best to do it via the display because it really works simpler. Then we have the front interior. First of all, we also have a new steering wheel here. To be honest, I think it looks really good and feels really good, but you can see the buttons for the indicator are missing, as we can see with Model 3 because the Model Y still has a turn signal lever behind the steering wheel. Yes, in fact, you can simply set the turn signal as you are used to from other vehicles or from the previous Model Y. Otherwise, the gear selector lever has disappeared, which was previously here on the right side. That means you do it here via the display, as we already know it from other vehicles, Or the Model Y will probably also set it automatically accordingly if, for example, it detects a wall in front, then the reverse gear is engaged directly if you have to step on the brakes. Otherwise, there is also here in the middle a new display instead of 15, now 15.4 inches, the same as what we know from Model 3. And by the way, I have to say briefly, the light bar at the front is based on the Cybertruck, a bit like the Cybertruck. You have here in the animation also this glow that looks really damn cool. I have to say, I think Tesla has already done something really cool with the new Model Y. By the way, the wrong rims are still on here. That's because this is a pre-production model, but I specifically checked on the chassis number here in Germany in the Gigafactory Berlin-Brandenburg, produced as the pre-series vehicle with the number 365, by the way, if you are interested. Otherwise, of course, ambient lighting can now be seen here. Unfortunately, not as well as we know it from the Model 3. Equivalent to the new center console is called. You can now close the cup holders with this small cover here in the front. Of course, there is still a huge compartment, and of course the normal center console that you can open, and of course, there is also another compartment here. Otherwise, the seats are now, you can see in the camera that they are slightly perforated because they are now ventilated, as I said. At the back, they have the same must, so this slight perforation, but they are only heated at the front. The driver and passenger are now naturally ventilated, so we can go in here briefly and then here, set to cool, and then adjust the seat ventilation. I think that's really good, especially with the black interior in the summer, because I notice it with my Model 3, it gets really damn warm, and I can hear a slight noise in my seat. It feels really good. Yes, otherwise, interior, I have to say, really top in the Model Y. Generally speaking, Tesla has really taken a vehicle, which I think sells very well, the best-selling vehicle worldwide, and has really made good improvements in small points. Now, not somehow came up with the idea to reinvent the vehicle here. Outside, by the way, I just noticed one thing that I had forgotten before, and that is the new mirror caps that have a small edge in them. Why? For aerodynamic reasons, so that the air just here to the side is diverted and does not go up. In general, Tesla has made the vehicle more aerodynamic. The consumption, according to WLTP, went from 16.9 down to 15.3 WLTP. Range has also increased by about 5%, 35 kilometers to be exact, from 533 to 568. You really have to test it in the end. Otherwise, the battery has probably stayed the same, 250 kilowatts peak charging power. I mean, we know peak performance is cool, but in the end, it really only depends on the charging curve. Of course, we also wanted to talk a little bit about the price. The 2025 model comes in a launch series where certain things are already included in the price. The long-range all-wheel drive is at launch series €60,990, corresponding to 61K rounded. What is included is an exterior color, black or quicksilver, which otherwise costs extra for the old Model Y. Also included is the acceleration boost, so instead of 5 seconds, 4.3 seconds from 0 to 100, which otherwise costs almost €2,000. And what is also included is the trailer hitch. If you have all that with the old Model Y, to be honest, if you configure it, it is actually a little bit more expensive, which means that in terms of price, the launch series is really damn good. And overall, you can say that the price has not really increased, which I really like for the many innovations that you can get with the new Model Y.